So we recently went on an Alaskan cruise with Disney Cruise Line and loved it so much, and I wanted to share all about it in case you're planning on going or debating on going. Here's all about that. So we were really excited when Small World of Vacations offered to send us on a Disney cruise to Alaska. They paid for the base cruise and I paid for the flights and the excursions. And we just had the time of our lives, but we also learned a lot in the process. And so I'm excited to share with you things that we learned and what the experience was like, so that if you're debating it, then you can know a little bit more than we did before we started this process out. I want to start with the beforehand stuff before you ever get to Canada or go on the cruise, because there were some interesting steps there. Keep in mind, I'm a Gold DCL Castaway Key member, so I've been on a few of the cruises, but they've been Caribbean mostly, which is a very different experience than going to Alaska. And so a lot of our learning was related to that. So we booked the cruise beforehand, chose our cabin. We booked our flights into Vancouver, which is where it sails out of for Disney Cruise Line. You can also choose to fly into the United States and then go up by train or bus or drive yourself. There are different ways to go about it. We made sure that we had our passports updated, which are required for anyone flying in and out of Canada. If you're going by land, I think kids can get away with not having a passport, but highly recommend having a passport. And we also booked our hotel. And in this case, the Pan Pacific Hotel is at the cruise terminal, literally attached to it. And so it was really convenient, not only that it was so close, but they also offer baggage transfers the day that you leave for your cruise. They'll come to your room, get your bags that you've already tagged, and take them to the cruise ship. So a couple of different perks of staying there. There are lots of hotels nearby though. So if you happen to have like points or a loyalty program that you're a part of, there is a good chance that it is very close to there, maybe even within walking distance, but the Pan Pacific Hotel is literally attached to it. We also joined the Facebook group. If you are going in any Disney cruise or maybe a cruise with any cruise line, it is very helpful to do this. You can search the ship that you're on and the date and usually find a Facebook group related to that. It's a great way to stay not only on top of information for your cruise, but in communication with people that you see on board. Then we had to pay attention to the dates for booking things for our cruise. And that includes booking the onboard activities, like the excursions, as well as the things that are on the ship, as well as the online check-in process. It's one of those things that can be fraught with technical issues, just like all things Disney related, because a lot of people are doing it all at once. We made our onboard activity and excursion bookings 90 days beforehand, and that includes like some like mixology type things on the ship, as well as some of the excursions at the ports and the glacier viewing, which we were very lucky to get in this case. And then the next step after that is to do the online check-in. When we checked in, everyone did it 30 days out, but the rules have changed. So now your check-in date for this step is depending on how many cruises you've been on before. So if you've been on no cruises before, you will check in online 30 days before. But if you've been on Disney cruises before, it will be more than 30 days out. You'll just have to look up the Castaway Key online check-in days for more information on that. But this is where you upload your like passport information and you get your boarding time for the ship. There was one activity on the ship that was actually available on this day as well, which is the Royal Gathering. For whatever reason, it is not available 90 days out. It is available on the online check-in date. And this is a free reservation. It allows you to meet multiple princesses. It is the only character meet on the ship that requires a reservation. So we just did both on 30 days out, and then we were pretty much set to go. The next thing that I did was I downloaded the Arrive Can app. Arrive CAN app. And when you do this, it's kind of like a fast pass or a lightning lane when you get to Canada at the airport, because you get to kind of skip a step because you've already input the information in the app. You can do this up to 72 hours before flying into Canada. And this is anywhere in Canada, but including Vancouver for a cruise. Once we got all that done, then we had to think about packing. Packing was a very tricky thing for us to figure out because of the need for like layers and different weather situations. We definitely had a lot of different clothing options. The thing that we found to be the most helpful was to wear things like leggings and then a couple of things on top of that. So leggings and then sweats, or a couple of pairs of leggings, and then on top like a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, and then some kind of weatherproof jacket or something like that. But definitely layers are super important when going to Canada and Alaskan cruise because of the varying temperatures. Even though it is summer, it can be quite cold. And we definitely experienced that, including seeing sleet at one point during our trip. Some other things that were helpful, a mug to go to the refill station on the ship, because the little cups that they give you are just not very big. So if you're going all the way up to the deck for the refill station, it's frustrating to get this much. It's helpful if you bring your own mug so you can get more at once. The magnets are helpful to attach to the backs of the doors. On the Disney Wonder, only the doors are magnetized. On some other ships, the walls are magnetized as well. And so it can be helpful for just hanging a lot of different things up. In this case, we had so many layers that we just kept them sort of hung up on the doors. We also really like having lanyards because you can put your room key in there and you can leave your cruise cabin, your stateroom, with only like a room key or only a room key and ID, that kind of thing. It just makes it easy to kind of come and go. Also really like to have binoculars because there are great views in Alaska, and that includes the glacier where the boat kind of hangs out for a while, and there's animals, wildlife, and so we really recommend having binoculars available. So all this planning was done and we flew into Vancouver the day before the cruise departed. Some people that were in our group actually had a really hard time with their travel, so it might be helpful to fly in a couple of days before, not only in case there are difficulties like with connecting flights or luggage or whatever, but also because Vancouver is amazing. We only had the day before where we flew into Vancouver to enjoy it, and we really regretted it. We really wish we had more time because it's a really fantastic place to visit, and I would do it just to enjoy the city itself. So allow lots of time for Vancouver, including at the cruise terminal, there is a Soarin'-like attraction that you might want to enjoy, but there's a lot of things to do in Vancouver, including good food. It's a big city, but it's clean. It has public transportation, et cetera, et cetera. So Vancouver, thumbs up for that. So the day after we flew in, it was officially embarkation day on the ship. We had tagged our bags in the room. The hotel transferred them for us to the cruise, which was amazingly convenient. You can bring your carry-ons on board, anything that you want to keep with you, like medicine or swimsuits if you're going to go swimming or whatever, but also alcohol. If you want to buy alcohol, like in Vancouver, we bought a couple bottles of wine. You have to keep those with you because those can't be in your checked bag, but any of your carry-ons need to be brought on to the ship by you. Once we were on board, we didn't have to wait very long for our stateroom to be ready. During this time, most people will go to the quick service on board, which is cabanas, and just have lunch, or they will go to guest services to get anything tweaked on their plans. They might go sign up at the spa for passes there. Some brave people will go swimming and use the water slide. That is more popular in the Caribbean, but some people did do it. And so there's some things that you can do to kind of spend your time before your room is ready. But once the room is ready, then you can go in. Once we were in our room, there was a lanyard and a bag on the bed that we got. This is for people that are Castaway Key members. And so I highly recommend bringing lanyards for anyone who isn't, because they will need to have their own lanyard, whereas you will get one for free that's included on your bed as you enter your stateroom. Highly recommend that you connect to the Wi-Fi on the ship as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we had technical issues. No Wi-Fi was available for hours, but generally it is working. And so you want to connect and see what activities are available. And you can also see your dining rotation because there are multiple dining rooms on the ship and everyone starts in one of 3 dining rooms and rotates throughout, so you can see which one that you will be in the night that you board the ship as well as throughout the cruise. On the embarkation day, there will be a required muster drill where you have to go and meet your group and go through all of the safety demonstrations so you know what to do in an emergency. And there is also a sail away party, and we actually went right from the muster drill to the sail away party because they were scheduled that close together. The sail away party is so cute with the characters. And usually the boat actually does sail away during the sail away party, although we've been on cruises where it didn't, but it's still a fun show to watch, and we highly recommend it because it is a great way to kick off a Disney cruise. And then after going back to the room and changing, we had dinner. Our first night we were in Tiana's, which is a really great place because it is hosted by Tiana. There's entertainment and great food. There was no show in the main theater on this night. There is a few nights throughout the week-long cruise. There was none on the very first night. We did do some shopping. It was very busy. People that are really into shopping, they hit the shops immediately to get things before they sell out. If you aren't trying to get anything that is super high priority, you might want to wait. In my case, I got a sweat set that I ended up wearing the whole cruise, so I got a lot of use out of it. After this day, we had a day at sea. We had breakfast delivered this morning. The breakfast is, you can leave it on your door at night and write down all of the different things that you want. It could be like juice and fruit and some basic things, but it really isn't very expansive, this menu. It's just really nice that they can bring it to your room and you don't have to leave. After the stay, we ended up going to get breakfast so that we could have hot food in the mornings as opposed to the very limited breakfast delivery menu. But it is nice that it's available if you don't want to leave your room. We then marked activities in the app that we wanted to do so we could kind of build our schedule. And there is a My Plans section of the Disney Cruise app that combines the free activities that you have hearted as well as anything that you booked before. So you can kind of look at a schedule that you've built based on the things that you have booked or the activities that you're interested in. This is the day that we had booked the Royal Gathering where we went to meet the princesses. So we did that in the atrium. They were turning away a lot of people who saw the princesses and wanted to meet them, but you just can't because it is the only character activity that requires a reservation and it was fully booked. This happened to also be formal night, which is a thing that happens on cruises that I believe are 7+ days. It's very optional. You don't have to dress up if you don't want to. A lot of people do. And if you do, it's a great opportunity to get photos taken in the atrium. There's always going to be a photographer available to get a picture of you all dressed up on a formal night. It was also Golden Mickey's. It is a show that is on almost all of the Disney cruise ships, and it's usually the first show that they do during a cruise. And if you've seen it once, it's similar on all the ships, but it can be a really great way to cook off a cruise. We also went to Match Your Mate that night after dinner, which is like the Newlywed Game, but on Disney cruise ships. It is very spicy. It might surprise you if you've never seen it, but it's such a popular activity that I highly recommend getting there early if you want to watch the show, but it's always fun on the cruises. And then that night we were told that we might be able to get a glimpse of the Northern Lights from the cruise ship. And we did, although it wasn't super impressive and it just kind of looked like a city that was lit up in the distance, but we did give it a try. But all in all, a great first day at sea. The following day was Glacier Viewing Day. This is very exciting because the views were just amazing. We had breakfast at Cabana so that we could have hot food for breakfast, and then we lined up to meet Mickey. On this day, the Glacier Viewing Day, even if you're not going out on the Glacier Viewing excursion, there are special things on the boat, including Minnie and Mickey in special outfits. And so we knew that we needed to line up to meet Mickey right after breakfast before we went out on our excursion. And he's in cute, like yellow overalls. Unfortunately, the weather was not great. It was sleeting. So as we were waiting in line, we were cold and we were on the top deck of the ship and it was not comfortable. And we were the last ones that got to take pictures of Mickey at this time of day out on the ship with the really gorgeous Alaska background behind us. So just beware that that is a competitive thing, as so many things in the Disney niche are. That was competitive. And Minnie Mouse was meeting on the other side of the ship on the top deck as well, and similar weather issues. But if you want to meet them both, it is a time investment. If you're not going to leave the ship, you'll have multiple opportunities to meet them. However, we were heading out on the excursion that you can book through Disney. And on this excursion, it's small boats pull up to the cruise ship and they take you out to the glacier viewing so that you can get up close. They also stop for wildlife. I would highly recommend it for people that are really into photography because it gave you up close views of a lot of different things. It was just a fantastic way to spend a couple of hours. It's not cheap though, and so you definitely have to think about that. We were taken back to the main ship after being out on the littler boat for a couple of hours, and at that point the cruise ship is closer to the glacier itself, because while you're out for a couple hours on the smaller boat, the big boat is making its way in, and there are still good glacier views from the ship. So if you don't want to do the excursion, you will still get great views. We thought it was worth it with some, photography opportunities in our group. We got great pictures. It was a good experience. But if you can't get it or you don't want to do it, you still get great views. And this is where having the veranda room really comes in handy, because when we came back from the viewing, we headed out on our veranda. We got some cheese plates delivered, pulled a bottle of wine out of the fridge, put some blankets on our laps, sat on the veranda, and just took in the scenery, because when else in our lives we're going to get to these kind of views. So anyway, Glacier Viewing Day was really incredible. That night was Frozen themed night. On the Alaskan cruises, they don't do pirate night like they do on the Caribbean cruises. It's a Frozen themed night. So on the pool deck, they have Frozen themed entertainment, like the characters come out and the music and everything. And then a lot of people dress up in Frozen themed outfits, and all the dining rooms have a Frozen themed menu. It's all the same menu no matter where you're going to eat. I will say I didn't really love Frozen nights. Pirate night to me is always fun because the deck show and the food, and there's fireworks on the Caribbean cruises. Frozen night, didn't think the entertainment, food, and the lack of fireworks were particularly great. So this might be a great night to book Palo for dinner, which is completely optional. But if you want to do Palo, this would be a great night because overall didn't really love the entertainment or the food. After this, we had been at sea for a couple of days and it was time to start going into the city. So our first stop was in Skagway. This is our first time with a phone signal. And this whole time we had just been relying on ship Wi-Fi, which got very expensive because they were charging by the megabyte, I believe it was. And we just kept going through the plans very quickly. We were doing things for work and had to be connected. So it was a relief to be at Skagway where we could just use our normal cell plans to upload and do things on the internet. The Little Mermaid debuted in the app this day to tell us that it was going to be shown on the ship, because whenever you're on a Disney cruise and a Disney movie comes out, you get to be one of the first to see it on the ship, which is very exciting. In Skagway itself, you can walk off the boat and into the town. It's a very small town, but very charming. There are also lots of excursions you can do. The excursion that we did was a train trip, which I'm a huge fan of transportation, and just the views from the train in general seem very charming to me. And so we took a train that went up a mountain. And then once we got there, a small bus brought us back to town. There are lots of different excursions that you can take, but that one we really did enjoy. And then once we got back from that, we hung out in the town, went to the brewery, had some great food, great beer from the local brewery, and then were able to walk back to the ship. On this night, we had dinner in Animator's Palette. If you are familiar with this charming dining room, it is different. You do it 2 nights during your trip and both have their own forms of entertainment. And I would say both are incredibly worth it, which is why I would recommend Palo on Frozen night, because the nights that you're in Animator's Palette are really charming and I would hate for anyone to miss those. But this was one of 2 charming nights in Animator's Palette, which we really loved. The next day was our Juneau day, and this excursion was booked for 8:15 meeting time. Whenever you book a excursion through Disney, you end up meeting on the boat together with a group before you head out to do your excursion. This would have been our 3rd excursion day in a row, because we did the glacier viewing and then the train trip and then this. And in the morning, I was very tired and I was like, oh, 3 days of excursions in a row, this is a lot. Like, I wish we had like a break day in between, but it ended up being our favorite day of the whole trip, and that is because we went whale watching. So the first part of the tour was a hiking tour that was through the trees, and we had a great guide that helped us with photography tips and pointing out things that were in the trees on our hike. And then it ultimately led us to a glacier viewing area where we could see a glacier from a distance and take some great pics. And then we hopped on a bus to go out to a boat that took us out for whale watching. This was by far our favorite excursion of the trip, because our guide that we had on land, as well as the captain of the boat, were so enthusiastic and helpful and knowledgeable and excited about their jobs. And so it was just really a great experience. We saw lots of whales, more than normal, we were told, but I would highly recommend the whale watching in Juneau. Just a fantastic experience. Afterwards, we asked to be dropped off downtown Juneau. And once again, we went and had beer and food. We used the recommendations of our guide and had some great halibut here, which was really, really delicious. And then they have free shuttles that will take you back to the ship, because the walk is not the easiest walk, because it's a bit of a distance. And so the free shuttles took us back to the ship. And so that was a great day in Juneau. However, if you don't want to do any excursions, all of these cities are worth exploring just on their own. We took a nap and then played trivia, and we won in a big group. We won. So that was very exciting. And then we had dinner at Tiana's again, which was Mardi Gras night, very fun. And then afterwards, we had drinks in Cadillac Lounge, where they have a fantastic singer on the piano playing songs from popular songs. And we just really love the Cadillac Lounge in general. And then it was time for our last city stop of this trip, which was in Ketchikan. Ketchikan itself is a very charming city. We didn't arrive in until almost 11 a.m. The time at port was pretty abbreviated. We pulled up right next to the city, so it was really easy to just walk off the ship and you're immediately like in shops and restaurants and stuff like that, which was really convenient. Ketchikan itself, again, a city that you could just explore all day on your own. And in fact, in retrospect, that's what I would do. But what we ended up doing was an excursion that I didn't like, and that was the Misty Fjords catamaran. which was 5 hours and very anticlimactic and really not a great use of time. And it's also not cheap. So I would not waste 5 hours and the money to do that. If I were going back to Ketchikan, I would just explore the city because it's fun and charming. It has museums, restaurants, shops, lots of things to do. And especially after having a few days in a row of different excursions, this city, it would be just at my own pace and doing the things there as opposed to going anywhere. I'm sure there are great excursions there. And I think, the ones that were shorter seem like a better use of time, but you're just in Ketchikan for such a limited amount of time. I think it's like 8 hours or so, that our 5-hour excursion just was not a good use of money or time. We got back to the ship from this excursion right before the ship left. They would have waited on us because we booked it through Disney. It's when if you book your excursions through Disney, they will wait on you. But we didn't have any time in Ketchikan after the excursion. And so that was kind of the end of that. And we would have just rather stayed in the city. But at that point, we had visited all the cities we were going to, and we had another at-sea day. And on this day, we had a Palo brunch booked, which is fantastic. It's only like $45, which is like the best use of $45 in my opinion. And it is so delicious. The service is so amazing. I was traveling with a person who eats primarily plant-based, and the menu there is not plant-based, but they made special things just to accommodate that request. And it's just the best food and service you're going to get anywhere, I think. And so if you can fit that into your schedule, I highly recommend it. This is the day that we chose to see The Little Mermaid. It had premiered a couple of days before, but with our schedule and everything, it just hadn't worked out. So we had a whole day on the ship and we made sure to go and see The Little Mermaid, which was really fun because we're watching this new movie and the ship is moving and it kind of felt like we were in it, and it was really gorgeous. And so really loved being able to have the option on our sea day. We also had another dinner at Animator's Palette, this time with a different kind of entertainment, which is charming. I'm not going to spoil it for people that have never done it, but don't miss Animator's Palette. It is great. On this day, we were also given tipping envelopes. We had prepaid tips, which is something you can do when you book a Disney cruise. But we also wanted to add some tips, particularly for those people that were extra good at their jobs. And you were given tipping envelopes for all the different jobs. So like your head server and assistant server, those kind of people. And so we added a little extra to their envelopes and we're able to disperse those to the people that we wanted to give them to. And then we had to make sure that we got most of our packing done. Some people choose to get most of their packing done this night and put their luggage out in the hallway so that Disney can transfer the bag for them in the morning. We like to do the express checkout where we just get up in the morning and take our own bags off. It's much faster. But if you have little ones and need the extra hands, sometimes having Disney's help is a great plan. On Disembarkation day, you have to be up early and be out of your room. We could have gone to breakfast, but we chose not to. We bought photos of our whole trip at the kiosk in the photo shop there on the ship. You can prepay for something that is like Memory Maker so that it's cheaper, but for some reason, I always end up just buying them on the ship. And then within a couple of days, the digital versions will appear in your account. We walked off our own bags and then we were flying out a few hours later. So we just caught an Uber to the airport and headed home. It is a trip I will never forget. There was a bit of a learning curve. Now I feel a lot more confident. If I were to ever do it again, I would feel like I knew what I was doing a lot more. Now I really want to go back to Vancouver to spend some time and see more of Alaska that's just beyond the ports that we're able to visit. So I hope that information has been helpful. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. And thanks for watching.